Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I will be talking about inflation. Though I've made previous videos where I explained about what inflation is all about and its effect, but today I will be specifically talking about how inflation affects you from hitting your retirement. Now, first of all, we talked about how does inflation affect retirement planning. We all know what inflation is. I won't really go into description or definition of what inflation is. I will put in the description below links, to the previous videos I've made about inflation. Inflation is an important factor to consider when you're planning for retirement. If inflation is high, that means that the cost of living will be high, and this means that your retirement funds or money you've saved up for retirement will not last as long as you intend them to last. So it means if you have if you saved up $10,000 for your retirement plan, I'm just giving that as an example. If the inflation rate is 10%, it means that you will lose that $10,000 you have saved up in the account has lost 10% value, which would be about what you have left would be about $9,000 in value. That's what I meant. Now, how will inflation affect my retirement planning goals? That is a question everyone will be having on their mind now. I'm not an expert on finances and all of that, but I'm Igbo. Traditionally, it's in our DNA on how to handle money and multiply money and build wealth. We are taught about that. We are business-oriented people, So that's why I'm just speaking. I'm just random. Don't forget, I'm also a random guy on YouTube. So you also do your due diligence. It's important. How will inflation affect my retirement planning goals? Inflation is a gradual increase in the general price level in an economy over a period of time. Inflation is usually measured by the changes in the consumer price index, the CPI. So that is, it affects it because the changes that goes on with the consumer price index, like what I just explained previously about having $10,000 saved up, and if it loses 10%, that's the value. If inflation rate is 10%, that means it lost 1%, the 10% value, which is about you're losing about $1,000 in value, which you will have $9,000 left in your value. So now I will go on and give us like we have today, with the inflation rate being high, coming out from COVID restrictions and all of that, and back to the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which is taking a big toll on all of our pockets. So inflation rates are high, the gas prices are high. You see now gas almost $5, depending on some cities, $7 in some cities as well. And people now have to spend more. Even people using Uber, they get to spend more now, because a trip that will cost you about $5 before now costs you about $7 or $8 or $10 because of inflation. There's also a ripple effect from the Ukraine crisis and the sanctions being sanctioned, which is why I was against banning of Russian gas. I mean, that has nothing to do with the war. You understand? Sanction cannot stop a nation that is determined to go to war. So it can't stop them. So that is why I said that the US is indirectly sanctioning the American people, while sanctioning Russia. So I'll go on to give tips on how to tips for how to avoid a costly retirement mistake. I'll just give us a list. I won't really go into details of it. I will expect you to do that by yourself. So the following is the list of common mistakes made by retirees. Mind you, I haven't retired before, but I've seen folks who retired in my locality, in my area. I've seen certain mistakes they made, and some of them who I spoke to told me certain mistakes they made. So this is just out of first-hand information from certain folks who have retired. So I haven't retired before, I'm still working. Some of them told me that's in the Igbo Nigerian community. They told me that one of the costly mistakes retirees made by retirees are leaving too much money in their bank account. Leaving too much money in their bank account was a mistake as well. It's a costly mistake because of inflationary rate hits the bank account. So they were suggesting investing those portion of those money into physical assets, into assets that appreciate and not assets that depreciate. So you know the difference between asset and liability. So there are stationary assets that appreciate in value, and there are those that yield income. So it all depends on which one your drive is. Then 2 is earning too little in investment. So if you invested, let's say you went to a bank in America and you invested about $30,000 for retirement, you earn too little in return on your investment, like 3%, 4%. That is not a lot. That feels like nothing. So it's important you invest. You invest in certain portfolios where you will earn a lot more money in return on your investment. Number 3 is planning. Not planning for life expectancies, and the need to fund health care during retirement. So not planning for those life expectancies. Health care is an issue that we'll have to take it very, very serious. So we have to save up money for sudden unexpected medical bills that could arise, and we also have to stay healthy, exercise and all of that. Eat healthy is important. Number 4 is not planning for inflation and the loss of purchasing power over time, which can be as high as 50%. So if you do not plan for inflation ahead of time, thereby you are busy banking your dollars, your pounds, your nairas in their account, you are not planning for inflation, which is why you see the Igbos, they go into buying properties that appreciate the value. All those things, all those properties you see them buying, they are planning for inflation. You understand? That is them trying to hedge their funds, their retirement fund. When you see them buying properties, they are trying to hedge their funds. I will go in another video. I will tell us about the difference between hedging funds and all of that. I will go into that. So you have to plan ahead for inflation by hedging your funds, hedging your investments, putting it into assets that appreciate some value. Then number 5 is not having an emergency funds at all to cover unexpected expenses such as medical bills and home repairs. So if you're saving for retirement, if you're planning for retirement, you have to set out emergency funds for unexpected expenses. It is very, very important that we all do that. At least for persons, I tell them they should save about 6 months worth of their expenses. So like for the rent, you just save like 6 months worth of it, so at least you can have a roof over your head while you plan on other ways to do things. But that is if you're in the West, where you got to pay mortgage and all of that. But if you're in Africa, where if you own your property, it belongs to you, you're not paying no property tax on anything, and to anyone, you're not financing any mortgage or anything. You owe whatever you own is yours. You can save for 6 months or 1 year or 2 years worth of call them emergency funds. So you could invest in farmland. That is it. Also a way of hedging your funds. You can invest in certain things. You can invest in gold as well as a way of hedging your funds. That could be a way of you saving your 6 months worth of expenses. Thereby, inflationary rates will not hit it as hard as it would if it was in your bank account. Well, I would like to stop here, and I hope that we all got this message, and it's very important that we all take a close look at all these things and study and look for ways to make and improve our lives. Well, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget, I'm still your humble personal brother or sister or friend, IKEMS. Thank you.